What is blockchain and how does it work? Is blockchain much more important than Bitcoin itself? In this video, I'm going to tell you what nobody ever told you about this technology that was dormant until Satoshi decided to use it in Bitcoin. I'm Carol, co-founder of Area Bitcoin, the biggest Bitcoin school in the world. And before moving on, subscribe to the channel, follow up for the next videos about everything that connects to Bitcoin. Blockchain didn't even have a name when it was created in 1991, almost 20 years before Bitcoin, by two guys named Stuart Haber and Scott Sterneda. They worked at Xerox, yes, on Xerox. The guys worked for a company that created the photocopier and created a technology that doesn't allow you to copy anything. Well, Stuart and Scott had this impulse to create a digital record system that was immutable because of a scandal that happened with a paper in biology that was being rigged at the time. The criminal managed to change what was written in the article using a special ink. Stuart and Scott were shocked by this and thought, well, if it is so easy to falsify data recorded on a paper, it is even easier to do it digitally. Just press copy, paste or delete. So to solve this, they imagined blocks of information linked to each other in an immutable way. Nothing can be edited or deleted. In 1992, they added cryptography to this log mechanism, and until 2008, this invention had no name and no real use cases. Not even in Satoshi's white paper the word blockchain appeared. Satoshi referred as blocks of information chained to one another using hash functions. Since the word block and the word chain appear so often in the white paper, it was natural to unite the two and call it the system blockchain. But then, how does blockchain work? Blockchain is formed by blocks of information linked to each other. It's like a digital fabric. You can't pull the middle block of the chain without affecting the following blocks. Just as when you pull the thread of a fabric, you change the entire seam that comes in the sequence. Blockchain is like a digital seam. If something is changed, everyone will realize that there is something wrong at that point in the chain. Once registered on the blockchain, the information is recorded in the history of the blockchain, which is why the blockchain also serves as a timeline, a time chain, where facts cannot be modified, which is why it is an immutable and reversible network. Satoshi himself called the mechanism time chain and not blockchain. To modify the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, the only chance you have is in those first moments when the blocks have just been created and it is possible to try to reverse the blocks. But that would need an absurd computational power to invade at least 51% of the network in a very small time window of an average of 10 to 30 minutes. That would cost billions of dollars even with the chance of not being able to make an effective attack. At most, it would revert a mempool transaction and not the whole block. So that's why after 6 blocks created, or an hour on average, it is said that the information becomes immutable, because each block created increases the difficulty and cost to revert the information. In that sense, the Bitcoin blockchain is the safest, truly decentralized, and the one that requires greater computational power to be hacked. And that's why it is considered the most secure blockchain. This information is inserted into the blockchain by super powerful computers called miners. They make a lot of mathematical guessings to find the cryptographic enigma, like a cryptographic puzzle. When they find the right answer, the network validates the answer, records the block on the blockchain, and miners receive Bitcoin as a reward for using computing power to run the network. This mechanism is called proof of work and unlocks new Bitcoin units as blocks of information are created. It works like a game where the computer that solves the cryptographic problem first receives the round's Bitcoin. Miners are competing with each other all the time to see who gets the answer first and gets the Bitcoin for the next block. Okay, Carol, got it. The chain of blocks, you can change the information because they are tied to each other. But how does that happen? So, let's assume that we are looking at the Bitcoin blockchain. Each block contains information about the financial transactions made on the network, like address A sent 2 BTC to address B, and also a timestamp. All this data form the content of each block and are randomly mixed and transformed into a hash. Hash is an encrypted code like one in the picture that summarizes and identifies everything that is within the block of information. And it is from the hash that the magic works. After creating hash 1 of block 1, it will be inserted together with the content of the next block, block 2. It all will be randomly mixed and will form hash 2. That is why hash 2 summarizes all the content of its block and also the previous block, because hash 1 was inserted inside the content of block 2. And so on. Hash 3 will be the cryptographic summary of the block 3, which also contains in its content the hash of the block 2, the previous one. And it's through these hash functions that the information becomes a chain of data. Like following blocks will always have a summary of the previous blocks. Blockchain is one of the things that permitted Bitcoin to be decentralized as a distributed ledger system where all computers that process the network have copies of all blocks of information ever created. If any information is changed, a comma, a space, a number, anything, it will change the hash of the block and it will not match the entire chain of hashes already consolidated. The network will not accept this change because it does not match the copy of the blockchain that everyone has saved in their computers. So to destroy Bitcoin blockchain, you would need to destroy all the copies that exist. If an asteroid hits the Earth and a copy is still available, the network will survive from that copy. This system also guarantees that no data is lost. Everyone can verify the veracity of the records. Everything is done in real time in a synchronized and transparent way. In addition, anyone can audit the network, which increases security, efficiency, confidence in records, and eliminates the need for third parties or intermediaries as a single source of information. A network that decentralizes trust might only have this first use case as money. The financial system is where we most depend on intermediaries, both to create currency and monetary policy, like we do with central banks. As Satoshi rightly said, our history is full of violations of these trusts, whether by central banks manipulating monetary policies and inflating our own currency, or via commercial banks creating mechanisms that make it difficult for people to access their own money. Have you ever tried to withdraw large amounts from your bank account? Probably you had to go through a manager, right? This shows how much we are not free to move our own money. We always need to ask for permission, and we are dependent on these intermediaries to say yes for you to move your own money. Oh, Carol, but we don't need Bitcoin. We have this technology. Just put blockchain in the banks. Let's put blockchain everything, and everything will be decentralized. Blockchain is not magical. This talk of blockchain, yes, but Bitcoin no, reflects the lack of understanding about where the value of all of this is. The value of Bitcoin lies in decentralization, the union of various technologies such as blockchain, proof of work, that make the network secure. If there is no currency, if you decide to use only the blockchain, you need to have a central authority deciding which transactions or which blocks are valid or not. Without a currency, there is no incentive for the miners to provide computational power, which has a cost. Then there is no point. Centralize the network and all of the good properties of decentralization go away. Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO, a foundation, or any leader proposing changes or a roadmap. Bitcoin doesn't obey to governments or regulation, or else it would be centralized like a bank. And Bitcoin has a decentralized network architecture because it doesn't depend on big tech servers to store the blockchain information. And this is unique. No other layer 1 blockchain have all of these characteristics. That's why Bitcoin is the only decentralized currency that exists. Money is no longer just what we are told what it is or what is not. The Bitcoin blockchain is a lot like the internet at its inception, an open protocol that everyone can participate in and use however they want. And if the internet has already changed the life in this planet, imagine what Bitcoin will not do. Until next time, and opt out.